So I have with me here Toyin Sodipe, 10 years experience. That's a lot of experience to bag as an individual. So you can be sure to ask all your questions around L&D. How do I start learning? What do I need to know? She's also the founder at Velvet Consulting, a leading HR consulting firm, and she also has a learning academy focused on equipping young professionals with 21st century skills. Like we had said, and we know since COVID hit us, the world has not remained the same. So it's important that you learn 21st century skills, in-demand skills, really, really important. So can we make welcome Toyin Sodipe, everyone? Yay! Welcome, Toyi. How are you doing and how are you feeling today? We're super excited to have you. You're muted if you're speaking.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, good
Super
evening,
excited.
everyone.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. Thank you so much, Midi, for having me. Okay, so because of the time that we have, I will just, add a few points to what, Wumi has already said, and then just to, like I said, a few points, just here and there, just to, really solidify our understanding. And then we just take questions, from there, because I have about, say, 10 to 12 minutes, to run through this presentation. Okay, please, if at any point you cannot hear me, please let me know. I will try to get into the chat section. All right. So this evening, I will be speaking very briefly on how to use communication as a tool to showcase expertise. I do not have slides for very funny reasons, but yeah, if you ask Wumi when L&D people are preparing slides, I'm sure it was such a constraint for her to even have 13 slides. We could have so many, right? Because there's just that information. There's so much, that we want you to know and we want to show you, so for the sake of time, I will just, speak from some of the things that I have jotted down, right? So talking about communication as a tool to showcase expertise, right? In terms of, being assertive, how to speak up, how to show up. I would like to, just pick out the two, big elements from that statement, which is communication and expertise at first, right? And so it's interesting that we already talked a lot about communication. I thought that was so interesting. I mean, when I saw that communication was topping the charts, of course, as expected, because if you look around, if you take a poll, one of the problems that people experience, right, or one of the challenges that we face, both in the workplace and outside of the workplace, can be traced down, right? Almost 70-80% of it's to communication, where people think that they are saying what the other person is hearing, but alas, they're just talking. And so I have a definition for communication for you. And of course, I know that you know what communication is, but I like to even put the word effective in front of it, which is that it is the art of sending and receiving of information. And it can be it can be by one-on-one between groups of people. It can be face-to-face. It could be through communication devices, right? And when I use the word effective communication, or when you hear the word effective communication, there has to be a feedback. And so you can see it as effective communication is the art by which one person sends an information, the other person receives it and sends a feedback. So there has to be a response that is elicited when you actually communicate. And that's the challenge that we have sometimes. That's why you hear people say, oh, but that's not what I meant to say, but that's what the other person heard. So if you're doing something that is eliciting a different response from what you expected, then you are probably not communicating, right? And that's why people would ask, do you understand? Can you clarify to me what I have just said? Can you tell me back what I have just said? And so communication in itself, as simple as it is, it's work, because it takes a lot to communicate. And that's another whole course on its own. And I'm sure if you get on Kryptr, like media has said, you would see a whole course right on effective communication. So communication is that you're sending and you're receiving information. You're also receiving a feedback based on the information that you have sent. Now, let's take a look at expertise, right? From the word expert, who is an expert? Somebody who has a broad and deep understanding, right? And competence in terms of your knowledge, your skill, your experience, and it could be through practice, it could be through education in a particular field or study. right? So when you say someone is an expert, they have not just the broad, but the deep understanding of a subject matter, of their job description, of their job role, of their department, right? Of their field of study. That's who being an expertise. So let me bring it from the side of expertise before I talk to communication. Because when you want to use communication as a tool to showcase expertise, what it means is that you must truly be an expert. Do you see? So competence is the first step that you must cross before you start to communicate anything in the workplace. People listen to you when you walk the talk, when they know what you're saying. And when we said it earlier, that sometimes some people are so confident in rubbish. Apologies, for the language, but there's no better word to use than that word. Do you see? Have you seen people speak fine sounding English, but you are more confused when they started the conversation than when they ended? You're like, what's going on here, right? And that's the danger that we see in the world today. People are just everywhere, and they are not speaking, or they don't know what they're talking about. And so you must walk the talk. You must be competent. You must be able to acquire knowledge, skills, and abilities. So when you look at the word competence, and Wumi already shared that, right? When she talked about your skills, your knowledge, your habits, your attitudes or your abilities, when she talked about judgment and decision making, those are the things that you must look at when it comes to competency. You must know the job. That's knowledge. You must know what you're doing. When you now know, it's not enough that you know. You must be able to do the job that you know. So it's beyond theoretical knowledge. You must be able to apply the things that you know, the things that you have learned, all the webinars that you have attended. It must convert into something. It must convert into application. Do you see? That's how you grow competence. And when you talk about abilities or attitude, right? How you can show up at work. And when we were asking the question about which is crucial for career success, is it soft skills, is it hard skills? I liked the chart that Wumi showed. If you look at all the stages of your career, for the entry level, mid level, senior level, I know there was no part where you saw that one box was empty. And that's the interesting thing. You need both of them. You need both the soft skills and the hard skills. You need to have the technical abilities to do the job, and you also need the behavioral ability. So when I'm talking of attitudes, I'm talking of behavioral excellence. Not just you doing the job, but how do you do the job? The excellence that you bring to doing the job, not just average work, not just shabby or shoddy work. I've done it, I've marked deliverable, and you are gone. No, there has to be excellence. Your emotional intelligence at work. It's not everything that you cry and whine about. Do you see? And I know that we're in such an interesting generation, where everything is so toxic. And I'm not even saying, you have to stay in a place, there's just some places that but there are also some places that they're building your resilience, right? It's not every feedback that you would cry and feel bad about. You must be able to separate, the feedback from the person that is giving the feedback. And if you're doing a true assessment of yourself, you will know when they are giving you feedback that speaks to you. So you must even be true to yourself. Do you understand? So emotional intelligence, how do you take feedback? How do you interpret feedback? How do you regulate your emotions when it seems that you face challenges at work? Those things are part of competency. So it's not just, I'm a brilliant chap. Do you understand? I'm a first class graduate of, wherever. It's that when they give you an assignment and they say deadline is tomorrow, you are not, first of all, the first thing you're doing is not just complaining and whining, why is deadline tomorrow? There's a way to regulate your emotions when you're speaking, right? Social interactions at your place of work. You're not just always in your cubicle, you come into the office, you open your laptop, you eat your lunch once it's 1 p.m., once it's 2 p.m., you get back to your laptop, once it's 4:59 p.m., you have shut down, you have, relax your muscles. Social interaction is a competence that you must acquire in the workplace. How are you relating to your colleagues? How are you offering help? How are you offering advice? How are you also receiving help at work? So you must also learn that. You must also learn cross-departmental awareness, which is the fact that when you come to the office, and I know this one might be a bit that, oh no, it's just what is on my job description. This is what they are paying me for. But if you can, You have the edge over somebody else who doesn't, which is that you should learn to acquire knowledge across departments. I know you are in accounting, and what they are doing in HR is none of your business. But I can tell you that it will pay off for you if you know at least a bit of HR. I know you are in HR, right? And what they are doing in the IT department is not your business. But I can tell you that it will pay off for you, whether in that organization or outside of the organization, right? For you to learn a bit of that IT. It doesn't mean that you have to, be the one to cut the wire when they need. No, it doesn't mean that. But just a little here and there, right? Cross-departmental awareness. Because when someone does not show up, remember, you are the one that they would call. So it's not about, they are using me in this organization, and that's even a different conversation. But I'm saying that if you're able to acquire a bit of knowledge across departments, the knowledge you acquire is for you. I can tell you, nobody's going to collect your knowledge from you. And that's how knowledge works, right? Every knowledge you acquire is for you. It's not for anybody else, for you, right? And you have an edge over other people. So it's important, right, that you have that cross-departmental awareness, right? Don't just be the person who dresses well. You speak good English, but you can't do good work. It's a danger to society and to the organization. It's not fair. Do you understand? So when it comes to competence, you have to know the work. You have to be able to do the work. You need to be able to ask questions. If you don't know something, go and ask. Go and find out. Go and do your research. And I can hear some people say, but I'm entry level. So when you say expertise, how can I gain expertise, at this level that I am? There are various ways for you to be an expert at something. Because when you hear the word expert, it doesn't have to do with age. And even sometimes it doesn't have to do holistically with the length of experience, right? And I say that with caution. As much as length of experience, someone who has done 35 years in something can be considered an expert, right? But even if it's 5 years that you've done in something, remember I said it's the broad and deep understanding. There's a way you can commit hours to learning something and you can become an expert in a short while. And because we continuously learn, you're continuously growing because you have new trends coming in every day, right? You have new information coming in that field of study every day. So you keep on learning, you keep on improving, you keep on adding knowledge to the one that you already have. So competency is non-negotiable. You see, if you can master this area when it comes to being competent at your work, when it comes to seeking information, when it comes to acquiring knowledge and getting your hands dirty, asking questions, communication is easier. I'm telling you, communication becomes way, way easier for you. Because like Wumi said, she said, competence gives you confidence, and there's no better way I could have said it. Competence will give you confidence, right? So let me speak to communication, right? And I already said that it's easier when you speak from a point of expertise. And so when you know how to do something, when you've acquired the knowledge, you can demonstrate the skills, you have those strong abilities. You must also learn how to show it. You must also learn how to show up with what you know. So I hear people say things like, my good work will speak for me. Hey, it's not always like that. You have to be able to show that you are doing good work, especially in the world that we are today. Competition is high. Do you know there are many talented people? There are many brilliant people. So you need to ask yourself, how can I show up with the work that I'm doing? Right? Your managers and your superiors are busy. Let's just say it as it is. They are busy. Media might not always be there because there are bigger tasks that she's working on. So what do? You would have to book a time on a calendar to say, I need to discuss, my progress reports with you. I need to discuss my glow areas, which is the areas where I'm shining and doing better. I need to discuss my growth areas, right? Which is the areas where I'm not experiencing so much growth. I want to learn more on this area. You need to be able to go and start up that conversation, right? You need to bring them into what you're doing. And that's the way you can communicate to show the good work that you're doing. 3 things that I would highlight, before, as we just start to round up this conversation, when it comes to communicating your expertise, is that number 1, accountability. You need to make yourself accountable by giving updates of your work, your progress reports, like I said earlier, your success milestones. What are the areas you won't just sit and feel like, they gave me the job yesterday, they said the deadline is in 3 days. In 3 days, I would revert. No. What you can do is to send a mail after 24 hours and say, this is the progress I have made on this task. I would revert to you on completion. You need to give progress as it goes. They might not reply to your email, and that's another thing about emotional intelligence. So you can't say, because I sent them progress reports, yesterday, they didn't reply, so I'm just going to... No. Like I said, your managers and your superiors are busy. They're doing other work, but they will not forget the email that you sent, whether they reply or not. If it is something that needs urgent attention, you can send a reminder, right? But you need to be accountable to them. Schedule time on your manager's calendar to communicate areas that you need help with. There's something we call agile performance management now, which is that we are not waiting 3 months to seek feedback on the work that we did last year or the work that we did 6 months ago. No. When you do something, there's something you call on-the-go feedback, agile performance appraisal, which is that you schedule time on their calendar. You talk to them about the work that you've done in the past week or past 2 weeks. You don't wait 3 months. You don't wait for them to come and meet you to tell you that the work that you did. You go and ask questions. The work that I did 2 weeks ago, what's your feedback about it? Is there any area you want me to do better? That is how a proactive professional develops. Right? So you communicate areas, where you want them to help you, areas where you're still lacking, and even areas where you are shining. Because do you know what? You can actually be doing good work and nobody is seeing you. You'll just be you and Bola by your side, pressing laptop together, and Bola will be hailing you, hey, star girl. But remember that Bola is not the one that is included in promotion. Bola doesn't make promotional decisions. Bola doesn't pay your salary. Do you understand? So you can't just be in that cubicle and, Bola is hailing you by the side. No. You've got to let the people who make the decision see you. And this is not eye service. They are two different things. It's that you're showcasing good work. You're sending an email so that they are aware of what you're doing. That's the world we live in, right? The second thing is visibility. You have to learn to speak up in meetings, ask questions, contribute. And what that means is that before you step into a meeting, be it a weekly general meeting or a project meeting, you must prepare before you go in. It's not that you're just coming from the house, or, for people who work remotely, the meeting is 9, but at 8:58, you're still somewhere on your bed brushing your teeth. How would you come to the meeting prepared? And I know that sounds funny, but you have to come to a meeting prepared so that you can be visible, so that when it's time to ask questions, you ask correct, genuine questions, not just because you want to be seen or because you want to speak. You would ask genuine questions. Don't be the person that when it's time for meeting, those people where they sit behind somebody else and they use somebody else's head to block their face. If that's you, stop it from today. Do you understand? Don't do it again, right? You won't always have something to say in all the meetings, right? But let's be visible. Do you know there are people that work in organizations and one day the manager just says, you work here? You'll be shocked. You'll be like, no, now you have to be playing with me. What do you mean by I work here? There are people that are like that, and they complain that they are never seen. They don't get promotions. They don't get challenging tasks. They don't get this. But how would they? If when it's time for meeting, your chair is right behind the projector or is right behind someone. No, don't always hide behind. Come in early for meetings. Do your research so that when they're speaking, you have genuine questions to ask. Don't be shy. It's part of being assertiveness is a soft skill that can take you far in your career. Show up well. Do you understand? If you have to practice before coming to the meeting, by all means, and you will get better at it. Right? You might not speak today, but don't let 1 year go without you saying anything in that meeting. It's dangerous to your career. So visibility is one way. Prepare and show up in meetings. Ask questions. Contribute. They might not take your contribution. That's another thing. Emotional intelligence. Right? They might not take it, but say it. They might not take it, but say it. And don't feel bad if they don't take it. Do you understand? Don't feel bad. They might take it one day, they might not take it. But as you're doing that, you are growing how to become a better communicator. Do you understand? You're growing how to become bolder, how to become more confident. So the skills that you are even acquiring, like I said, is more for you and no one can take it away from you. And so I mentioned the first thing, accountability, right? The second thing, visibility. And the third thing is volunteering. This is also a great way to communicate your expertise, right? Don't always give excuses for more work. They come to you, oh, want to organize end of the year party, except on maybe extreme occasions when you have a lot of work to do and you have very short deadlines. But every time, they shouldn't come to you, oh, want to have end of the year party. If that's what you can volunteer to do, it's one way to show that you're visible. I'm telling you, volunteer to organize the end of the year party, volunteer to organize the CSR project, or maybe departmental trip. About 2 years ago, when I was working at a university in Mauritius, I remember that, I was working as a lecturer, and, of course, I would get into class. My students loved me. I loved teaching in class, and I thought that it was just great that, my students loved me. They will always say good things about me. And when it was time, for maybe other activities across the organizations, maybe we're having a symposium or we're having maybe a party or something, I would always just step back like, that's not really why I came here. Like, I just want to do my job. My manager had to call me and say, no, Toyin, I know that you're shining in class. Your students loved you. We're hearing about how you're teaching in class and how your students love your teaching methods. But I need you to be more visible organization-wide. Because you see, the president of the organization is not in the classroom. They can only hear, but they also need to see. Right? So he gave me that task and said, we're having this, leadership pitch competition, and I want you to be in charge of it. And during that process, the things that I learned just organizing that event, that 2-day event, it was, I would always remember my boss, and I would always say, thank you for giving me that opportunity to shine. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to go out of, my comfort zone too. Because I would always say, I'm not an organizer, I'm not an event planner, I don't have energy for all of these things. But he said, I want you to do things because I want you to showcase what you think you cannot do. And the comments were just everywhere. This was so good. Thank you so much. And it just made me to realize that there are some things that you can do that you don't even know. And this is also one way that you can discover and develop some of the talents that you have that you don't know that you have, right? Some people are punching keypads every day, data analysis, but you have such great talent when it comes to event planning and you don't know about it. It's some of the things that you do at work, that end of the year retreat that you planned, that would even be where you would identify that, so I can do this. And that's another cheat code for how you get your side gigs, how you have other businesses, by the way. So what I'm saying is volunteer, right? Take on new projects. If you don't have so much on your hands, go and meet your colleague. Or is there any way that I can contribute to the project that you're doing at the moment? And that way you can you develop competency. You are able to communicate the skills that you have. You're able to communicate your competence in a way that everybody can see. And I hope that, the things that I have said, they've really helped and they've answered some questions. So at this point, I would hand it over back